There's an interesting picture on the moon that does appear to show something that could be a bridge, maybe a pipe, could be an inching worm.
I have no doubt that extraterrestrials could very well have populated or made structures on the far side of the moon.
They say space is silent, but some silences echo. Since the first humans stepped onto the moon, official reports have painted a picture of sterile rock and infinite darkness. But whispers tell another story of secret transmissions, sudden blackouts, and astronauts who returned changed. What really happened on the far side of the moon, the hemisphere forever hidden from Earth's gaze? In this countdown, we uncover the 20 most chilling, controversial, and suppressed stories tied to what one Apollo astronaut claims he saw and wasn't supposed to. The truth is out there, but the question is, why has it been buried?
3, 2, 1, 0. 60 seconds.
I saw this illumination that was moving with respect to the stars. We were smart enough to not say, Houston, there's a light out there that's following us.
1. The interrupted transmission. During Apollo 11's descent, a 2-minute blackout occurred. NASA claimed it was a technical glitch, but what if it wasn't? A former NASA engineer, now in hiding, once claimed Armstrong switched to a classified channel reporting, "They're here, they're watching us." Static crackled, then silence. Unofficial transcripts surfaced years later describing massive structures and craft lined up along the crater rim. Armstrong never confirmed it, but when asked, Buzz Aldrin allegedly whispered, "We saw something, but they told us not to talk about it." Who were they? What did the astronauts really see? And why was it immediately classified?
I just see it as a beginning. Not just this flight, but in this program, which has really been a very short piece of human history.
2. The Soviets got there first. Long before Apollo, the Soviets sent unmanned probes to map the moon. Luna 3 snapped the first photos of the far side in 1959, but half the images were mysteriously classified. Why would blurry lunar terrain be a national security concern? Declassified documents hint at non-natural anomalies and geometric alignments inconsistent with geological processes. Soviet scientists went silent, some vanished, others defected. What did the lunar probes actually capture? And why did the USSR bury the images? Just as the space race intensified, were both superpowers racing not to discover the moon, but to control the truth about it?
I don't know what the hell that was. It's really weird.
What the hell happened?
Dave, I don't know. That music even sounds outer spacey, doesn't it? Do you hear that? That whistling sound?
3. The far side, radio silence. Unlike the near side, the far side of the moon is radio dead. Earth can't hear anything transmitted from there. But during Apollo 16, astronauts reported hearing a strange music while passing into radio darkness. It wasn't Earth interference, and it wasn't static. NASA called it space noise. Yet audio engineers later noted complex harmonic structures like artificial modulation. Why would a place with no atmosphere produce music? Could it be something broadcasting from within the moon, or was the signal not meant for Earth, but for something waiting in the shadows?
So is that one right there in the upper right-hand corner?
Yeah, that one's there. Some structure that kind of look like two pyramids on to the left of it. And then another structure which almost seems like it has geometry. Now, underneath that, you see the blur? That looks like obfuscation.
4. The structure in crater Paracelsus C. In 1994, the U.S. Department of Defense launched the Clementine mission to map the moon using military sensors. One image, only briefly public, showed what appeared to be a massive structure inside Paracelsus C crater. Analysts described it as a rectangular formation with uniform reflectivity. Engineers speculated it was 500 feet long. NASA never commented, but the image vanished from official archives. A whistleblower claimed the object wasn't built by humans. When asked who did, he replied, "It wasn't built recently. What could survive untouched for millennia on the moon? And more importantly, who left it behind?"
August 1976. Astronaut Neil Armstrong is embarking on a perilous mission. Not to the moon.
5. Neil Armstrong's Antarctic disappearance. After Apollo 11, Armstrong withdrew from public life, but in 1985 he resurfaced for a mysterious expedition to Antarctica with NASA, CIA, and British intelligence. Why would the first man on the moon need to explore Earth's most remote region? Researchers claim the trip wasn't about Earth, but about similarities to the moon's terrain. Some say it was a meeting point where the moon's secrets could be investigated, far from prying eyes. Photographs from the mission were sealed. Armstrong never spoke of it again. What did he find in Antarctica? Or was he searching for something that followed him back? 6. The artifact in Copernicus crater. During the Apollo 12 mission, astronauts photographed the Copernicus crater. Hidden in plain sight, just beyond the rim, was an object casting a perfectly vertical shadow, far taller than any surrounding terrain. The shape, rectangular, tower-like, and metallic. Though the photo was archived, it was quietly removed from public NASA databases by the late 1990s. When pressed, NASA claimed it was an imaging defect, but photo experts disagree, pointing out light reflections and shadow angles that suggest real physical structure. Could it be a remnant of a forgotten civilization, or perhaps a signal post left to be found?
One person involved with the early space program who did not remain silent was Joanne Donaldson, a young biomedical engineer at NASA.
Day 2, Ron came out from behind the moon, reported into mission control, and Gene comes up on the comm lake and says, "Hey, Ron, you're not lonely up there without us, are you?" And Ron reported back, says, "No, I got company."
7. The Apollo 17 anomaly. Apollo 17, the final moon mission, was supposed to be routine, but during a live transmission, the camera briefly caught something strange. A silver object hovered on the horizon. It shifted, reflected light, then vanished behind a ridge. NASA cut the feed seconds later. The moment is archived, but heavily distorted. Independent video experts who restored the footage point to non-lens-based motion. It wasn't dust, it wasn't reflection. Even more bizarre, one of the astronauts mutters, "That one's back." Back? Had they seen it before? Why wasn't this in any official report? And what was that one? 8. The Black Pyramid. Lunar Orbiter 3 captured a photo in 1967 that defied belief. A massive, shadow-casting pyramid-like object in the moon's highlands. The photo was archived, but not discussed. A former NASA technician leaked the image to journalists in the 1990s, calling it the one they never wanted us to see. The shape is unnatural, symmetrical, angular, and rising sharply from flat terrain. Engineers speculate it could be a structure or a vessel. But if it's artificial, who built it? And why would a pyramid be placed on the side of the moon no one can see?
The famous 1202 computer alarm, and basically nobody knew what it was. What it came out to was that the computer itself was overwhelmed with information because Buzz Aldrin, the lunar module pilot, had turned on the radars. Now, if there's nothing on the surface of the moon, if there are no artificial structures, if there are no spires sticking 10, 20 stories up into the sky, why would you turn on the side radar?
9. The Apollo 10 spacecraft encounter.
Please don't believe it. Nobody. Shall we tell them much? I don't know. We ought to think about it.
Before Apollo 11, there was Apollo 10, a full moon orbit rehearsal. But in private logs, astronauts spoke of a mysterious spacecraft following us. They estimated it was 8,000 feet away. It maintained a consistent distance. Then it vanished from radar without a trace. Official transcripts omit the sighting, but internal communications reference a maneuvering anomaly and external object with erratic trajectory. Could it have been an experimental Soviet craft, or was it something already there, watching long before humans arrived? 10. The moon bounce that shouldn't have happened. In 2002, amateur radio operators bounced a signal off the moon and got 2 echoes. The first, as expected. The second, delayed by 2.5 seconds. That meant the second signal bounced off something else, possibly behind or inside the moon. Astrophysicists suggested ionized interference, but the moon has no atmosphere. Others speculated about subsurface cavities or even alien tech, massive enough to reflect Earth-based signals. Is the moon hollow, or does it contain something hidden, ancient, and still functioning? And if we're only hearing echoes, who's listening on the other side?
The mare's surface is flat and covered with lava, but in some parts we can see volcanic rises or traces of lava flows. Observations with Kaguya's terrain camera revealed that in some parts of Mare Moscoviense, volcanic activity continued until about 2.5 billion years ago.
11th, the lunar dome of Mare Moscoviense. In 1959, the Soviet Luna 3 probe captured the first images of the moon's far side, revealing a peculiar dome-like structure in the Mare Moscoviense region. The structure appeared to be a massive, smooth, and symmetrical dome, unlike any known lunar formation. Soviet scientists were baffled. Some speculated it was a natural geological formation, while others whispered about the possibility of an artificial construct. The images were quickly classified, and discussions about the dome ceased. Decades later, declassified documents hinted at the structure's existence, but no official explanation was provided. Was it a natural anomaly or evidence of something more?
There are so many different things down there, and such a great variety of landforms and stratigraphy and albedo that it's hard for the mental computer to sort it all out and give it back to you. I hope over the next few days we can sort of get our minds organized and get a little more precise on what we're seeing, but I'll tell you, this is absolutely mind-boggling up here.
12. The disappearing tracks of Apollo 15. During the Apollo 15 mission in 1971, astronauts David Scott and James Irwin became the first humans to drive a vehicle across the moon's surface, the Lunar Roving Vehicle, or LRV. Their historic path was documented in dozens of photographs taken from orbit, clearly showing the tire tracks etched into the lunar dust. But here's where it gets strange. Months later, high-resolution images from orbit showed sections of those tracks missing, vanished, as if someone or something had erased them. NASA officials chalked it up to photographic discrepancies, poor lighting, low resolution, or camera angles. But independent researchers weren't convinced. The original photos were sharp. The tracks were clear. So why did some disappear? Could the moon have self-correcting terrain? Is lunar dust more dynamic than we think? Or was someone cleaning up behind us? And if that's true, who has the power to do it? 13. The silent signal from Mare Ingenie. In December 1972, as Apollo 17 looped behind the moon, contact with Earth was momentarily lost, expected due to radio blackout. But something unexpected happened. An anomalous signal was picked up, not from Houston, but from Mare Ingenie, a vast basin on the far side. The transmission was brief, under 5 seconds. It wasn't garbled noise. It had a rising harmonic pattern, structured, almost musical, not random, not natural. NASA chalked it up to interference, but a handful of mission insiders leaked the raw data, and it didn't match any known environmental anomaly. Independent analysis suggested an artificial modulation. Astronauts on board didn't hear it. Ground control did. One engineer allegedly said, "That wasn't us, and it wasn't them either." Could something beneath Mare Ingenie have sent a ping when the signal blackout allowed it? And if it did, was it trying to respond or trying to warn us?
The crater Tsiolkovsky appears from the horizon. The Tsiolkovsky has a diameter of 180 kilometers. Its interior is filled with dark lava that has sprung forth, and the central peak looks like an island floating on a dark lake.
14. The vanishing crater of Tsiolkovsky. Ancient aliens. Rocket scientist sends Russia into space. Season 13. History. Tsiolkovsky crater is one of the most striking features on the moon's far side, measuring over 180 kilometers wide. Its terraced walls and central peak have long fascinated lunar scientists, but in 2010, something odd occurred. New images from NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter showed parts of the crater appearing different. Subtle changes in elevation, a shadow pattern that no longer matched earlier Apollo images. One section near the southern wall even seemed to have collapsed inward, despite no recorded moonquakes. NASA attributed this to camera angles and light, but analysts who compared high-resolution overlays noticed something impossible. certain landmarks were simply gone. Had they eroded naturally, or had something tampered with the terrain? Some speculated underground movement. Others hinted at excavation, something below the surface, reshaping the crater from beneath. But why Tsiolkovsky? And why did these changes occur in one of the most remote, least observable regions of the Moon?
Michael Vassin and Alexander Sherbakov suggested a hypothesis that the Moon could be a spaceship designed by mysterious extraterrestrial beings. In 1965, writer Isaac Asimov made an observation that added fuel to the fire of conspiracy theories. He marveled at the sheer astronomical accident that the Moon fits so snugly over the Sun during total eclipses.
15. The hidden base in Zeeman Crater. Zeeman Crater lies in perpetual shadow on the Moon's far side, over 180 kilometers wide and buried in mystery. When NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter passed overhead, it captured something astonishing deep within the crater's floor. Geometric patterns, angular ridges, formations that didn't match natural crater morphology. Some of them resembled hangar bays, others right angles, something nature doesn't build. NASA labeled the photos as interesting rock formations, but former intelligence analysts who reviewed the images disagreed. One called them consistent with underground infrastructure. Another hinted they weren't new, they were uncovered. What's more chilling is that the anomalies emit heat, minor but measurable infrared signatures, despite being in total shadow. This isn't just rock reflecting sunlight. Could it be a dormant facility or a base still in use? Zeeman Crater is rarely photographed, even today. The question remains, are we ignoring it because there's nothing there, or because there's something we've already found? 16. The black cubes of Jules Verne Crater. Jules Verne Crater lies deep on the Moon's far side, mostly unexamined until orbital mapping intensified in the 2000s. But what one probe spotted there shocked everyone who saw it. A photo leaked in 2011 shows two cube-like objects casting long rectangular shadows across the crater floor. Not boulders, not ridges. Cubes with flat surfaces and sharp corners. Analysts claimed the shapes were due to pixel compression, but others weren't so sure. A former engineer on the Clementine program said, "I've seen those shadows. They're not glitches, they're structures." NASA quietly removed the raw data from their archives. Journalists looking into the story were stonewalled. Could they be monolithic technology, storage vaults, or machines? The cubes haven't been seen again. Not officially. Why has no probe returned to photograph Jules Verne at higher resolution? Or is it because they already did?
I believe what I'm saying, and I cite the evidence that I know.
He says that the government he served in the military and as an astronaut is perpetuating cover-ups of alien sightings, going all the way back to the legendary 1947 Roswell incident, an alleged alien spacecraft crash where remains were allegedly recovered.
The reason for the denial was, number one, they didn't know if these were hostile and could we protect ourselves from them.
17. The astronaut who tried to tell us. In 1994, Apollo 14 astronaut Dr. Edgar Mitchell gave a press interview that many believe was a veiled confession. While discussing his lunar mission, he paused and said, "We're not alone, and they've been watching us for a long time." Mitchell never claimed to have seen aliens on the Moon, but he insisted government insiders told him the truth had been buried. He later founded the Institute of Noetic Sciences, investigating consciousness, psi phenomena, and alien contact. Mitchell believed something ancient had been discovered on the Moon and covered up. He claimed there were technologies not of this world recovered long ago. NASA distanced itself. Officials called him eccentric, yet Freedom of Information Act requests revealed Mitchell had requested access to classified briefings about recovered craft. Requests denied. Why would a decorated astronaut spend his life chasing nonsense? Or was he trying to leave a message, one that we ignored?
Sent their ascent stage module, which they no longer needed, crashing into the Moon.
And the scientists on Earth saw the seismic data, but it didn't do what anyone was expecting. The signal seemed to be going back and forth inside the Moon, almost like it was a bell that was ringing.
18. The hollow moon theory. In 1969, NASA deliberately crashed the Apollo 12 lunar module ascent stage into the moon. Seismometers left on the surface recorded something eerie. The moon rang like a bell. For nearly an hour, the reverberation led scientists to propose strange internal structures. Some speculated massive caverns, others denser material near the crust. But a fringe group of engineers posed a darker possibility. What if the moon is hollow? Theorists claim the moon could be an ancient constructed shell, possibly even artificial. Soviet scientists published papers hinting the moon might have been placed in orbit. Of course, mainstream science rejects this, but recent gravity mapping data reveals inconsistent density, particularly on the far side, areas that may hide vast, empty chambers. If the moon is hollow, or partly so, who built it? And more importantly, are they still inside?
There is a wealth of evidence that suggests aliens have visited the moon. Perhaps the most compelling evidence is the fact that there are over 100 artificial structures on the moon, which were first discovered by telescope in the 1960s.
19. The faces in the dust. In 2009, high-definition images from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter revealed something strange: eroded but distinct face-like features carved into the dust of the far side. Similar to the famous face on Mars, these formations appeared too symmetrical, too deliberate. One even showed pupil-like shadows. Analysts called them pareidolia, the human tendency to see faces where there are none. But computer analysis of angles, symmetry, and proportion found patterns statistically unlikely to be natural. If they are artificial, who made them? Are they messages or monuments? An ancient alien presence? A warning? Skeptics say these are nothing but random hills and tricks of light, but believers counter with one question: why are the faces always on the other side? 20. The final transmission. A private ham radio operator named Vito Saccheri claimed to intercept an uncensored Apollo transmission in 1969. According to his story, while scanning VHF frequencies, he picked up audio from the moon before the feed was cut to the public. In the alleged recording, an astronaut's voice whispers, "They're on the edge of the crater, standing there, watching us." Static followed, then nothing. NASA denies such a recording exists, but others have come forward, engineers, radar techs, even military operators, saying the same thing. Transmissions from the moon were filtered through a military relay. So what else did we hear and choose to ignore? Is it just an urban legend, or the final proof that the moon isn't lifeless but observed? What if the far side of the moon is not a barren frontier, but a perimeter, and we were warned never to cross it? They told us the moon was dead, a rock, a relic. But every photo, every whisper, every lost second of transmission tells a different story. One of watches, warnings, and wonders buried in silence. Why did the astronauts stop going? Why seal the far side in shadows? Maybe we were never meant to be there. Or maybe we were invited just long enough to see the truth and turn back before we reached what lies beneath.